Hey guys, welcome back to my neck of the woods. My name's Deco, where I share my experience and my knowledge, hoping to lessen your learning curve. So today I'm going to talk about trailers for bass fishing and what they mean to me and what they should mean to you and how to use them. Now, this subject is saturated on YouTube, and what I've done here is just try to gear this more towards someone who wants to learn as opposed to someone who already knows, and maybe you can pick up a little something different along the way I do it. I'm not a tournament angler. I'm not a professional angler. I did do tournaments for a couple of years, realized they're not for me, and I'm more of a leisure fisherman that tries to get better every year. And I do the YouTube channel and try to teach people what I know and what I have success in, all right? So before I get started, please sub my channel, like my videos, and make some comments. Itchy nose. All right, so trailers on, it's mostly on jigs. So things like this, a jig, right? Or I have a plethora of stuff in front of me here, or a bladed jig, otherwise known as a chatterbait. And then sometimes a spinnerbait, all right? And I think for my personal experience, for a chatterbait and for a jig, it's a must. You should not be fishing a jig or a chatterbait without a trailer. I think, and I'm actually surprised that the manufacturers aren't selling chatterbaits and jigs with trailers, because everyone puts them on. And if you're not, you should. It's just going to help you. It's only going to help you. It's going to increase and make your presentation for that fish, for that bass, better. So here we go. So we have chatterbaits here. The first thing you want to do is you want to try to match your trailer to the chatterbait, all right, and or the jig or whatever you want to do. So what does it do? What does a trailer do for the basics, right? It adds more action, it adds more weight, and it gives it that fish tail profile as opposed to, here's a chatterbait right here, right? So that's all you're gonna get. You're gonna get the hook and then the skirt, right? And it's gonna go like so, as opposed to, we have this one right here, and say we put a trailer on it, right? So what are we going to put on it? Say we'll put a paddle tail on it, right? I have a plethora of baits in front of me. And I personally think that it doesn't entirely matter what trailer you put on there. They're all going to fish good, and they're all going to catch fish. As you learn about different trailers, you're going to use trailers just a little bit different. I'm going to tell you why. But if you're just starting out, put a trailer on your chatterbait or put a trailer on your jig, and you'll learn from there. All right. So this is a Z-Man. What's the new one out there? I forget the name of it. The hammer or something like that. I forget what it is. Anyway, a jackhammer. So this is a Z-Man jackhammer with a darkened blade there. So this is it's just a paddle tail, random paddle tail. I wouldn't even know the maker. And you want your paddle, so it's going to swim like this. So you want that paddle tail to line up like this, right? So all you're going to do, right in the middle, like so. It's kind of like a Texas rig. Stick it on, right? And we're going to thread it all the way up that hook until it gets to about right there, right? And then you're going to poke that through. And most chatterbaits and jigs, they have a keeper. See the little piece of wires that are bent the other way? It's a keeper, and that's going to thread on like so. So we have it like that. We pull the skirt down, and it's going to run like this. So it's going to give that impression that whatever this bait is, whatever the fish thinks this bait is, it has a tail. It gives that profile of the tail. Now, if you're using a jig, maybe you want to use something that has like a craw tail to it, or a creature bait, or something of that nature. I had one around here somewhere. This one is my favorite, and I got this creature bait through like a mystery tackle box or something like that, and this is the last one that I have. So if you know what this bait is, please chime in so I can go buy more of them, because I really, really love this, and I love it as a trailer. So actually, I got a couple, my last bag of them, so to speak, and but I have them in like a Ziploc bag, so I don't know the name brand. But anyway, you can take a good look at it. It's ridged like this, and it's got the little tails and the little feet at the bottom there. All right, so say you're going to use a jig, right? This is something that would emulate or mimic a crawfish, right? So same thing, you got a jig. This one has a keeper on it right here. You're going to pull that keeper down. And we're going to orient it right in the middle, like so. I'm going to thread it on until we get to about right there. I'm trying to make you see this here. I'm trying to help you see this, excuse me. Go through, and then it goes right up. There's a keeper there, and you push that forward, right? And so this is, like I said, you want it to kind of match. So this is a brown and green jig. You want a brown and green here. This had some white in it with some speckle and so on like that. If you're using a white chatterbait, you want some variant of a white trailer on it, okay? And you want to imitate like a craw on the jig, unless it's a swim jig or whatnot. If you're going to be bouncing this, I find that this presentation is the best. Now, there are some people that will say, if you're going to use a swim jig, you would change the orientation to this, so you kind of thread it on sideways, so it will give the impression that that's the tail swimming backwards, excuse me, swimming side to side. I'm not sure it really matters. To give you an example of what I'm talking about, this is actually one of my favorite trailers for chatterbaits right here. It's called the 5-inch DT Grub by Gary Yamamoto. And this is what it is here. So some people will say, if you're fishing a craw, you want the orientation to be sideways like this. But if you want this on a swim bait or a chatterbait, you would change the orientation to this way. So this will give the impression that it's a tail swimming side to side. I am not really sure how much it matters, really. But you do want to match, because there's really no variant in, like when you look at a bluegill, its tail is roughly the same color as the rest of the body, and you want to do the same thing with your chatterbaits and whatnot. So your chatterbaits, same colors, I covered that. You know, here's a blue one, black and blue. This is also a Z-Man, and here this one has some white with some speckled, and I matched it with that. Obviously, if you wanted white, you would put a white one on there too. All right. So there's different things that you can do with your trailers that will enable you to work in the water column a little bit better. So sinking or floating. So if you want to know if a bait is a sinking bait or a floating bait, just put it in your mouth. Lots of salt in this one, it's a sinking one. If it doesn't have a salty taste in it, it's more of a floating one. Yeah. The more salt in it, the more it's going to sink. And that's going to help your presentation. So if you want, look, I got something else in my mouth too. Anyway, so if you want it to sink more, put a trailer on it that's going to sink more. But sometimes you can, so say this is a ½ ounce, right? It's going to sink pretty quick. But say you want to move it a little quicker and you want it in the middle of the water column. Try to get a trailer on it that's going to float. And that way it's going to give it just a little bit more buoyancy when it's going through the water column, and it's not going to sink as fast. Food for thought, use it any way you want. So you want it to go beyond the skirt. You want the trailer to hang below the skirt. Same thing with this, below the skirt. Now this is one of my, I'll use it on this one here. I'm going to pull this trailer off. I have some favorites that I use for trailers. So what do we got here? I like fluke bodies. I like paddle tail bodies. I use fluke bodies a lot. There's other ones that have like the dual tail, like Zoom makes them. This is a good one by Zoom that I like. This is one of my favorite trailers for those white chatterbaits, and this is going to lead me into another one. So say you want to use it on a spinnerbait, right? This is a white spinnerbait. The spinnerbaits I use that I like, they're the Ishmanrow, the Bling series. I use these ones, and I use other ones that have like the silver willow blades on them also. But I think this is a sexy, sexy combination when you take a white one and a white one like so. And I'll show you what I do. Same thing. And this actually hides the hook just a little bit because it has this little area in here that's made to hide the hook. All right, so same thing. I'm going to thread it on. I always say try to get it in the middle because sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. You know, and we're going to thread it on nice and slow. And that hook should already be right in the middle there, almost. Right there, and it's probably already hiding in there. Good, you can almost see it. All right, and then we'll go like this, and that's gonna pop right out there. It's right in the middle, I don't know if you can see that. And then we bring it right over onto that keeper, and then put it in there. So when this goes through the water, like so, that gives the impression that this has a great tail to it, and maybe there's some other fish. It's almost like a school of fish going through the water column. When you do it on a spinnerbait, obviously spinnerbaits are pretty heavy to begin with. This is a 1/2 ounce. You know, that's probably going to bring it close to 3/4 of an ounce. I use like a spinnerbait like this in cold water, like early season or even late season, where you just want to slow roll something. And usually a spinnerbait is kind of a fast-moving thing, but by giving it a little more weight, you're going to cover a little bit more water with your casting distance, and it's going to be harder to pull through the water column, so you're going to be able to slow roll it a little bit better. You know, but that's one that I like there. Fluke bodies. I had some other stuff here. I don't know where it is. Oh, these Kitech, these small 3-inch Kitechs, I believe they're called the Shiners. I have a million different colors of them. Right here, right here. I think they make great trailers for the chatterbaits. And they're easy to put on, and they're relatively inexpensive, you know. But for big trailers, if you want to go bigger, you know, you can use, I don't even know what this is. This is like that's a paddle tail. There's another Fluke by Yamamoto. You can even use like the big Kitechs. You can use those as trailers also. I like the small, sleek ones. So the paddle tails, they're going to push more water, and they're going to change the presentation of, say it's a chatterbait, right? Say it's a chatterbait like this, right? And you need to pay attention to what kind of chatterbait that you have too. There's a lot of aftermarket ones there where the connection on the blade isn't connected directly to the head. It has like another swivel there. So that's going to give it a big wide wobble. And then say you put a paddle tail on it, that's going to give it even a wider wobble. And most times you kind of want to counteract that. The ones with those really, really tight wobbles are the ones that work best, in my opinion. That's why the jackhammer is so successful, because it's a tight little compact, and it just gets that quick little vibration that causes the fish to bite. But flukes, like the flukes here, they give like a very, very sleek presentation, and they go through the water nice and easy, and you wouldn't even notice that they're on there, and it's just a little bit of tingle on the back there. Sometimes if you do want a fluke, there's a lot of people that dye them, or they have the like this one that has the chartreuse on the tail there. That's really good too. And the good thing about flukes, and the good thing about even these paddle tails, is if they're not flat on the top, you want to make them flat. You don't want them rounded. So say you use one of these big bad mama jammers right here on for a trailer. What you want to do, so it fits on the keeper. I don't know if I explained what the keeper is. Excuse me. So you see those two little wires right there? That's the keeper, and that's going to keep your bait on this. So you want kind of a flat head here, and it's going to go pull all the way up. So what you do is, and I'm sure this is on every other trailer video, is just kind of bite the top off there, and it's going to make it flat, and it's going to keep it flush to that area. It just allows it to stay on just a little bit better. So chatterbaits, I'm going to recap here. Chatterbaits, and everything, you want the trailer to be longer than the skirt. That's what you want. I think like a presentation like that is perfect. Sometimes you can go shorter, a presentation like this, which is fine. The bigger the paddle tail, or the bigger the tail on it, then you're going to get more movement. And what you need to do is you need to just play around with it and find out what works for you and find out what the confidence is. All right, because that's going to help you ultimately. But chatterbaits and jigs, they need trailers. You have to run them with trailers all the time. Spinnerbaits is a learning curve. You're going to figure out when and where you need that. But if you're just learning and you're not putting a trailer on your chatterbait or your jig, you should. It's going to help you. It's only going to help you. It's only going to help you catch more fish. All right? That's all I have for you. Sub the channel. I'll talk to you guys later. Be well.